Hi, how are you? I'm Mr. Muso. We are revising and we want to talk about the scramble for Africa. Make sure your pen and your notebook is close to you. Here is our question. To what extent did the defeat of France on the Franco-Prussian War of 1870 lead to the European scramble for colonies in Africa? I'll take that question again. To what extent did the defeat of France in the Franco-Prussian War of 1870 lead to the European scramble for colonies in Africa? So we are saying that the scramble for Africa, was it started as a result of France's defeat on the Franco-Prussian War of 1870-71. So this statement, we see that it is true to a greater extent. The defeat of France on the Franco-Prussian War, it led France to be humiliated. It led France to be frustrated. It led France to to be so much embarrassed by that defeat. So the defeat of France led France to occupy colonies in Africa. She started to occupy so many areas in Africa. She started to occupy even deserts in Africa so that she could redeem the pride that she lost after being defeated by Germany. So when she was defeated now, what happened? We see that the balance of power, it was disturbed by France as a result of the occupation of colonies in Africa. So we see other countries following what France was doing so that the balance of power could not be continuously disturbed. That contributed to the scramble for Africa. So the defeat of France on the Franco-Prussian War played a significant role in causing the scramble for Africa. It played an important role in causing the scramble for Africa. But however, there were other factors that were also responsible for causing the scramble for Africa. Why this scramble for Africa took place? Number one, we also talk about the issue of establishing strategic areas. European powers, they wanted to establish strategic areas. For example, Britain wanted to establish a strategic area in Egypt, the Suez Canal, and she ended up clashing with France over this Suez Canal. Why? It was because it was an area of strategic interest. You move on, you also talk about European powers wanting to introduce new crops in Africa. That on its own led them to clash. Why? It was because they wanted to introduce new crops to be cultivated, to be planted by the people in Africa. Added to that, they also wanted to introduce new farming methods. So by introducing new farming methods, we see European powers coming to Africa and they ended up clashing amongst themselves. They wanted to introduce these new farming methods for their industries, for their factories, because it was during the time of industrialization. So if they introduced new crops such as cotton, such as sunflower and so forth, it meant that their industries were going to have enough raw materials. So that on its own contributed to the scramble for Africa. We also see that they also were interested in mining. You talk about Belgium clashing with France over Congo, over the issue of minerals. So we say that the scramble for Africa, yes, it was caused by the defeat of France in the Franco-Prussian War of 1870-71, but the issue of minerals also was significant. Why? It is because these European powers, they wanted to establish mining concessions with African countries so that they could be in a position of mining and getting minerals that were in Africa. So that on its own again contributed to the scramble for Africa. You move on, you also talk about the issue of civilization. They wanted to civilize the Africans. They had to say that the Africans were backward, Africans were barbaric, Africans were warmongers, Africans were bloodthirsty people, Africans were involved in pagan activities. So the whites were saying that it was their duty to come and civilize these people. So they ended up coming in large numbers and they clashed because they were from different countries. So we see that the scramble also took place. Why? It was because of the need, according to the Europeans, to spread civilization in Africa. Then you move on, you also talk about the issue of bringing Christianity. They wanted to Christianize, they wanted to spread the gospel. Hallelujah, hallelujah, Jesus is wonderful, receive the light. They wanted to speak about the good goodness of Jesus, the goodness of the light, but they ended up now clashing amongst themselves. So why? It was because of the need to evangelize, to Christianize the Africans in Africa. So the issue of Christianization led to the scramble for Africa. You move on, you also talk about the need to establish settlements, the problem of overpopulation. They were overpopulated, so they now wanted to come to Africa to establish settlements, to seek new settlements in Africa, but they ended up clashing among themselves over this need to establish settlements in Africa. So the scramble for Africa, yes, it was caused by the defeat of France on the Franco-Prussian War, but it was also caused by the need to establish settlements for these settlers in Africa, for these whites in Africa. So there were so many factors that you can talk about that led to the scramble for Africa. These factors, they can be classified under economical, political, and social. So we are seeing that the Franco-Prussian War, it was a political cause that led the scramble for Africa. Then on the other side, you talk about the economical and social factors that also led to the scramble for Africa. So that is how we answer this question. So let's take our question back. Let's read our question again. To what extent did the defeat of France in the Franco-Prussian War of 1870 lead to the European scramble for colonies in Africa? So we are saying that this statement, yes, it led to the scramble for Africa. Then on the other side, there were also other factors that led to the scramble for Africa. You talk about the social and economical factors. That is how we answer this question. Thank you so much. I'm Mr. Muso.